tax it. But sports betting is a $200 billion a year business.
That's a major U.S. Supreme Court ruling that could open the door for legalized sports betting all across the country.
The Supreme Court is giving the green light for states to determine on their own whether they want to legalize sports gambling.
Tell Donahue his next pick is good for 20 grand, but I need him to guarantee a win, okay? I need a lock.
He's not that fucking good.
No, Tommy, he has to. All right, he has to, or else they're going to kill me. Do you realize this, Tommy? They're going to fucking kill me. I can't afford to gamble anymore. I need a fucking lock.
And the fellas are in for another Thursday night live episode of Lock Talk. We got the Tri Box. My boy Joey below me, and to my right, which is actually my left, I got Dan Koob. Dan Koob is back on the podcast. Dan was our official on-air first guest, and he has made his way back onto the program. For those of you that want to follow Dan at Koob_Tube, that's Koob. Dan, I say for both of us, we are very excited to have you back.
I'm super excited to be back. I'm glad we made the rounds all the way back again. And I don't even work at Sports Trade anymore. So thanks for even considering having me back now that I'm no longer affiliated. But now I don't have to shill. I can just talk to you about where else I'm going to place bets.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about it?
Not bad.
Awesome. I love to hear it. Everything changes. Joey, how are we doing, my brother from another mother?
Doing well. Dan, good to have you back. I know you're a big bourbon guy, so is O'Kane. Yeah, I guess I dabble from time to time, but today we're going to be talking bets and we're going to be talking bourbon a little bit. I was texting O'Kane earlier. I got to see if Bourbon and Bets is an active podcast.
It's in Dan's thing. It's right after I forgot to text you. Dan's got it in his logo. Bets and Bourbon, I think.
All right, maybe that's where I saw it then, because we were texting earlier and I was like, this is a good idea if it doesn't exist, but maybe I saw something already.
So there is a Bourbon and Bets handle on Twitter currently. It doesn't look to be very active. It hails from Columbus, Ohio, but doesn't look like anyone's really using it at all.
Okay.
Maybe we do a hostile takeover of that account.
We might have to. Yeah, we might have to reach out to them, but
I'd have to do that. Fellas, we are divisional week. It is getting down to the end. We are going to talk divisional week. We got 4 games. We got to talk a little bit about wild card weekend. I kind of wanted to just run through. We've got so many storylines that we had last week. It's good to recap them and kind of look towards what we got coming on next week.
What happened? Was there a game Monday night? I don't remember a game being played Monday night.
No,
was there a game that happened?
No, Monday night was Bills Steelers. It was Monday night on the East Coast.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I thought they only played one game. Only one team showed up for the nightcap. That's why I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened after that, but we will talk Monday night, as we ended up having 2 games. Which, holy shit, Joey and I bitched about the Monday night game, and that just kind of just twisted it a little bit. But Dan's gonna talk a little bourbon. We're gonna get a live bourbon tasting. He's busting out the bottle of Stag tonight.
Yes, sir.
Very excited. Was going to join him. I fucked up. Don't have that bottle. Anyways, fellas, let's talk before we get into everything else. I wanted to go through last weekend a little bit because it was good and bad in the sense that the games weren't always great. If you listen to this program, you'll want a shitload of money because we fucking hit almost every single game until Monday night, which, again, we're going to forget.
Did we?
I did. I was undefeated going into Monday night. Joey maybe not.
Yeah, I was fine personally, but I think my picks on this show, I have to go back and listen tomorrow maybe, but whatever picks I chose for the graphic, I feel like didn't I definitely threw out some misses. I remember the misses I threw out, so I hope nobody rode or tailed those. I don't think anybody did. I don't think anybody's dumb enough to do that. But
same thing for Jordan. I mean, Jordan only remembered his misses too. So you're in good company.
100%.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's
great company.
It's a competitive edge.
No, so we can actually run through last weekend. So on the podcast, the one that Joey and I both had, we called it a best bet, was Chiefs laying 4.5. Let's start with that game. I know it's jumping the game that precedes it, but it was our best bet. Fellas, Miami can't handle the cold. The narrative was correct. Tua turtled. I mean, I don't know, Dan, did you have any action going into KC Miami at all?
No, most of my action was tied to the Cowboys, so I got annihilated. over the weekend. And I actually really like the Rams as well. So that one should have actually won. If you were watching that game, I feel like Sean McVay completely bungled the last 4 minutes of that game. They ended up punting in a situation where they thought they were going to get the ball back. We'll talk about that in a second. Wasn't surprised by the outcome at all between those two teams. I think if you look at the complete body of work and the last month and a half of what the Dolphins have been putting out on the field, you knew they just don't show up for games in which they are playing in a climate that they're not used to, and B, against actual competitive teams. And I think the Tua question now becomes, when he has to play out of structure, is he actually any good? When initially the question was, can he survive 17 games? He survived 18 games. So, okay, check that box. But if something doesn't happen within the first 2 to 3 seconds of a play being scripted and run, he doesn't seem to have the capability, the athleticism to create off-structure plays, like a Jordan Love that we saw last week, or like a CJ Stroud that's been able to do. And I think the question now, because they're about to pay him, or at least have the conversation about paying him, is where do the Dolphins go from here? On the Chiefs side, it just kind of feels like ho-hum. I mean, I can't believe Patrick Mahomes has played 14 playoff games, absent 3 Super Bowls. He's never played a true away game.
No.
That is fascinating to me. So, no, the outcome didn't surprise me at all. And real quick, I'm going to let this breathe a little bit. We're going to talk about this a little later. This is 127 proof.
Ooh.
Open it.
Ooh.
Great pop. I've never had it before, so we're going to pour it. We're just going to let it sit for a little bit, and then when we're done, we'll get back to it.
Perfect. Love that. One thing I wanted to ask, Joey and I kind of talked about this. We actually talked about it. Joey, I doubt you remember this. I was going through the archives. I was very bored the other day. I wanted to hear how we kind of previewed the season. One thing that you and I actually both kind of fell in the same thing, and it came down to Tua, and we were talking about what Dan was just saying as far as mobility. Is it physical issue or is it a psychological thing? Because it sure seems like physically he can make those moves, but is he so fucked up psychologically that he just doesn't want to leave the pocket and really does kind of turtle when things go bad? Because, I mean, at Alabama, he showed he can run, but he gets his bell rung, and it's not a good situation. But I agree. Miami where do you go from here now as a team? Like you said, you have a huge cap hit that you could eat up with Tua. He's going to ask for the house. And we're at the point now where Joey's quarterback got paid $40 million, so anything can happen. And it's just insane. Joey, what were your thoughts? Miami, KC. We talked about the Chiefs really, really heavily. It's kind of how we thought it was going to happen. They just dominated.
Yeah, it went exactly as most people were expecting it to go. I mean, I mentioned last week, I don't think I saw or spoke to anyone who was high on the Dolphins heading into that game. Even I even didn't see wow, there's so many people on the Chiefs, that must mean take the Dolphins. I didn't see any of that.
Sure.
I mean, it was a very predictable game from that sense. But in terms of paying him, I think they do pay him. I think they do trust him and believe in him. I don't think that's much of a question. But
the coach loves him. There's no doubt the coach loves him. He's been very, very having his back the whole time.
I think with them, they were banged up last week going into a freezing cold Kansas City.
We talked about it.
That was like the 4th coldest game ever. That's
Pro Football Doc. It was the Kansas City Chiefs were the most healthy team going in.
Right.
Miami, complete flip on the other side. I also had Pacheco as my lead pipe block over 64.5 rushing yards. I just love watching him run. I think it's probably one of the most exciting things to do in the league. Let's move along. Do we want to talk a whole lot of Cleveland, Houston? We're going to talk a bunch here in a minute. So,
I just want to tie that into the game against Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing 9.5.
Yep.
Which, as good as Baltimore is, they're arguably the best team in the league. Right now I love Houston plus 9.5 because this team can go up against anyone. Yes, we talked how bad Cleveland is on the road, but still, Cleveland's a good team with a good defense, very good defense, and Houston just shut them up quickly. So I love this Houston team, and I wasn't surprised at all, man. We talked about it last week how high we were on them.
Yeah, we were high on Houston. I liked the over was my total. for the week. Dan, what were your thoughts? Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about CJ Stroud. I want to ask, is this the end for Joe Flacco? Is he going to get another chance? Is he going to be the guy that teams call in December if they don't have a quarterback?
I was shocked he even got a call this year. I was standing shoulder to shoulder with him at some youth soccer fields, not long before he got a call from Cleveland.
Wow.
That is,
I think the Texans are obviously very opportunistic, right? And going into that game, we knew Joe Flacco and the Browns offense had basically become an offense that was high variance. It was incredibly high highs and incredibly low lows because Joe Flacco just wants to throw the ball 50 yards. That leads to huge touchdowns. That also leads to a lot of interceptions and turnover possibilities. So as soon as those back-to-back pick sixes were thrown, game is done. There was nowhere else to really go from there. And I'm very curious looking ahead to see against a much better mobile and well-protected quarterback how a Texans defense that doesn't really get after quarterbacks all that well, frankly, handles Lamar Jackson on the road. I'm not sure. It's a big number. 9.5 is a big number. I know, Joey, you said you like that number. I'm personally staying away from this if we want to transition to the actual game.
Sure.
I think 9.5 is too much. But having said that, I think this is a perfect chase spot for both teams, frankly. But I'm leaning towards the Texans being the team that's chasing at the end here. So the over, I really like. The over 43.5 is -104 at my former employer at Sport Trade. I love that over. I think that sales over. And a big part of that is the Ravens' offensive line doesn't get a lot of publicity, but they're good. They've allowed 37 sacks this year. It's only about 2 per game, and that's with a quarterback who likes to run around. So that leads to more opportunities for defensive linemen and linebackers who are spying in order to get after him. So obviously, I've been very impressed with what CJ Stroud and everybody else and the Texans have been able to do. I think that's an easy over, but I'm staying away from the spread. I just think it's too many points, and you can't tease it in a way unless you want to jack the Texans all the way up to 15.5. You're not getting under 3. Okay. You're not getting under 3 if you go the other way for the Ravens. So you're not crossing a key number there other than 6. So I'm staying away from it.
An ugly, I'm a big fan of Wong teasers. It's not a Wong teaser. It's a tease yourself out of and hope there's no blowout.
Well, look, like the numbers the board is situated in a way this week to where if you wanted to just take some of these dogs in a 3-teamer and bump them up 6 points,
dude.
There's no reason you couldn't.
Ross Tucker, which I'm sure you guys know, Ross Tucker calls games for NFL Network. Has a great podcast with Steve Fezzik, one of the bettors out there. And they always talk about wheeling teasers, getting 3 teams, wheeling them around, whether it's going to be perfect each way, maybe not, but, end up in 2-1, you're in a good spot. But yeah, I feel very, very confident in the fact that there's going to be points scored. The weather's not going to be terrible. There's going to be some decent wind, but you're talking about a quarterback in CJ Stroud. That ball is going to rip through the wind. And I kind of pulled up some injury report stuff. Mark Andrews is back. That's one thing we got to talk about. That is a huge jump. Jadeveon Clowney's been sick all week. He's actually been missing practice, which is a little bit interesting. Sickness is one of those things that we never thought about for years, but now in the post-COVID world, he may just not be there on Saturday.
Well, hold on. Let's be honest. The NFL does not care about COVID.
That's fair. But
when was the last time you saw anybody on an injury report in the last 2 seasons with COVID? It just says illness, and that's it. The NFL doesn't want to. I'm surprised they haven't shut the live stream down
he's got
right
a tummy ache.
Right?
We'll call him questionable with a tummy ache. But the one that I do want to watch is Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey.
He's out. He was ruled out.
He's the one where it's the key. He's the key. When you lose your number, when you lose that corner, and I know that obviously Tank Dell's out. And one of the things that I got to talk about, CJ Stroud has kind of checked all the boxes. He won with his back against the wall. He won when he lost his number 1 target. He's kind of found a way to get in there. But to what Dan said, Baltimore is really good. They're going to put them in a different – I can't picture this in a positive game state for Houston. I think Baltimore scores early. I think Houston plays from behind a little bit. but to me, taking 9.5 is a scary number to take, but I am teasing it. So that is something that I'm on.
Love these teasers. I think well, here's what I'm hoping for the divisional round. I hope it's more like 2 years ago. If you remember that was Buffalo, Kansas City. That was Tennessee, Cincinnati.
Oh, Tennessee, Cincinnati.
Since McPherson kicked the game winner, and then Robbie Gould kicked the game winner against your boys in snubby Green Bay. It was a much tighter round than the wild card round was, probably for several reasons. But I think this week should be more of the same of that. So I like the teasers. I like the dog teasers again, heading into this weekend. So
we've been talking about dog teasers. Let's flip it, because there is a favorite that is going to be on a lot of different teasers this weekend. And they won their first playoff game in my lifetime last weekend. And it's a kid that grew up in the northern peninsula of Michigan. Shout out to my Youpers. The Detroit Lions have won a playoff game. And like Dan said, they really made it interesting and really almost Lions this game away. And for somebody, I had LATs. I really liked the money line. Honestly, I said on this show, if you're going to take the 3, I just take a money line. The Lions this week, they play a team that didn't play last week. We don't know what happened on Monday night. We don't have to talk about it.
I think they just advanced. I heard
there were 2 buys. They actually had a bye. The NFC South was such a dogfight that they wanted to give the NFC South team a bye this week.
Well, it just makes sense. It just makes sense.
It just made sense. But no, looking at this week with the Detroit Lions, they're going to be a very popular tease spot. Anytime you're laying 6.5, every single guy is going to have his eyes on you. I have my eyes on them. I paired this with Houston. I teased this down to a half. In my opinion, Detroit, from an injury standpoint, you got Sam Laporta. I think we can all agree he's healthy. I can't believe he's healthy after watching what happened, but he's healthy. I do really actually like Baker Mayfield. I have a little bit of affinity for this Tampa Bay Bucks team being the underdog story that they are, but I do think it's the Lions. And I'm interested to see what you guys think, because I hope it's not just like me riding the wave of, obviously I got a lot of people around me that like the Lions, and I've watched the Lions a lot this year, but I do think they've kind of turned a corner where they can go in on a home game like this and win the game outright. I'm interested to see, let's start, Joey. What do you got, bud?
Well, Mike Evans, if it wasn't for Mike Evans dropping a couple balls, Dan, that score might have been – they
would have had 30 by halftime. Yeah.
And
we could have used those touchdowns, Joey.
I'm not going to shit on Dan and his fan base. It's been a tough week for him. But Tampa –
I mean, it's the only thing that could have been worse is not making the playoffs for the last, 10 years. I would know that, but –
I wouldn't either. Thankfully, I'm not a Jets fan. But shout out all the Jets fans who are listening, who are loyal, and they deserve some love.
Nah,
fuck Lions fans. Did the Giants make the playoffs last year?
Lay in that bet.
Did.
Giants make the playoffs last year?
They did.
Oh, I can't. I remember because. Right, they no-showed against the Eagles. Right, that's right.
They did. Right. That they did. But they made it,
ever.
And it was nice getting a taste of it. The Lions fans now know that. Detroit, I think if the game is in Detroit, that's huge. Not that Tampa has this stellar home field advantage or anything. I mean, it's an advantage, but Tampa going into Detroit, that's going to be a crazy atmosphere. Shout out that reporter who asked Todd Bowles.
Somebody had to bring that up.
I knew you were going to bring it up.
Maybe and played it so smooth. He's like, well, they've been playing in a dome for 30 years. But
yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, Detroit's riding high. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think Baker, he's playing nice right now. I think the Bucks altogether, they're playing as a whole, they're playing very well. Detroit is riding high. I don't really think much of the spread or the total right now. I am leaning towards taking the Bucks or maybe doing an underdog teaser again. In terms of the total, though, looking at it,
yeah, I'm interested in the total. That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of
points. Could we just get like a little dose of reality here? This is a Tampa Bay offense that scored 9 points against the Panthers 2 weeks ago.
Ding, ding.
This is a team this is a team that played an Eagles team that literally quit a month ago. All right. This team wanted no parts of being out there. Their secondary is guys who are literally my age, which means they're old, okay? Shouldn't be playing. Boo. And they just rolled over and died. So I don't think this Buccaneers team is any good. I think if they played in a division that was worth a shit at all, they would be like a 6 or 7 win team, not a 9-win team, certainly not a 10-win team now that they've beaten the Eagles in the wild card.
Yeah.
Two quarterbacks I don't trust at all, frankly, in big spots. Baker's been to this point once in his career, and they lost to the Chiefs in a game, granted, where he played pretty well. And then Jared Goff, who has to have his hand held by Ben Johnson and previously by Sean McVay. So I love the under in this game, 48.5 right now, plus 102 out there in the market. I think the Lions are able to score because I think Ben Johnson is a great game scripter. There's actually a great Twitter follow who grades first 15 scripted plays and like per EPA. I'll try to find it when you guys are when I stop yapping.
Drop that link whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, it's really good. The Lions are habitually one of the top teams in that regard, and Ben Johnson's a really good play caller in the flow of the game too. So I think this is a great spot for Detroit at home, a ravenous fan base that's never been there before. The only question is how do they handle success, and none of us know because they haven't had any ever. Yeah. But I think this is a great under spot.
I think they win for sure. I don't know about the spread, so maybe I'll parlay the money line. I don't know. I'm going to wait a few more days. Although it's already Thursday. Saturday's creeping up on us for sure. But
it's coming really, really quick. And I'm happy that I had the same kind of thought in this game. Tampa's been great, but how great have they been? I watched Baker carve up Joe Barry's secondary. And from that point, the media has filleted him to a level that I just can't quite. And I love him. I do love Baker. In college, super fun to watch. Kind of edgy. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea. The Browns thing was cool to watch. But I think he's going to turn into Baker Mayfield at some point. And then the Lions are a team. I talked about game state before. I think the Lions do fine in a negative game state. I don't think if Tampa comes out and scores a quick touchdown, I don't think the Lions panic being at home because we talked about it. Their fans, this is going to be 95% Lions fans. Tampa fans don't travel. I mean, they don't travel north at this time of year.
Ford Field's
in the NFC Championship game when we hosted. Granted, it was 50% capacity because of COVID bullshit, but they didn't travel a lot to that. They didn't travel great to the game this year in the regular season. Again, regular season game. And Detroit fans, this is the first time you've had this situation where you are one game. The majority of fans that are going to be going to the game haven't seen this, and it's really cool. But I think everybody kind of had good points. I do like Dan's thought of the under, and you got to look, in my opinion, anytime you're looking at unders, especially in a game like this, peer-to-peer, sport trades, stuff like that. We can't harp on that enough. That's probably where you're getting your best underdog prices, probably where you're getting your best under prices for the most part. But yeah, definitely a good one there.
Just one other note. I mean, I'm not a handicapper by any means, but I'd also just look at the fact that the Lions offensive coordinator has a brain. Mm-hmm. So many offensive coordinators and play callers don't find matchups in the same way that Ben Johnson does, right? They are scheming up plays for Amon-Ra St. Brown and for Sam Laporta in plus matchups consistently in big moments. And a lot of coordinators around the league just don't do that. And Dave Canales has done a good job, I think, and he's probably going to get some head coaching interviews for the Bucs himself. But I really think Johnson is in his last days in Detroit, and I think a lot of these guys are going to go out with a flourish.
Oh, for sure. I think for sure he's going to get a head coaching job, whether it's Chargers, Titans, whoever's been interviewing him or requesting to interview him. So should be a good game. I also thought this was Saturday night the whole time we were talking, and then I just checked. It's actually Sunday. That's the early game on Sunday. That's my bad.
No worries.
But
shout out the Chargers too. Checked off the list for the what is it? The Wayne Rooney checklist where you have to interview an African American coach. They interviewed David Shaw.
Wayne Rooney is a soccer player.
Wayne.
Now Wayne Rooney may be very interested in diversity.
Wayne Rooney could be.
I don't follow footy all that well. So
I'm not. We aren't quite the footy podcast that we may think we are, which we don't.
I believe it was Art Rooney. But
Art Rooney.
We'll go with Wayne Rooney. So yeah,
we'll go with the Wayne Rooney rule. But no, David Shaw was an interesting interview that I didn't see coming. Ex Stanford coach. That was surprising. But
so he's got kids in college. So he took a sabbatical. I think there was some interest that was around last year, but he decided to take a year off.
Got it. I was a little taken aback because I was like, I haven't heard from him in a minute. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Do we move on then to Saturday evening?
Let's ask, since it's a bourbon podcast, let's just take a quick moment.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even take a bourbon break. Dan.
Got to ask you guys.
Talk my ass off. Take us away. Here, let me see if I can make Dan big. There he is.
Okay. All right. Well, what is it you guys? Well, okay. Well, first and foremost, this is Stagg, formerly known as Stagg Jr. George T. Stagg is its father, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, oh my God, this is delicious. I've never had this before. This is what's known as an allocated bourbon, which means the demand outpaces the supply. So a lot of these distillers like Buffalo Trace and all the ones you've heard of only make so much. So they strategically pick where they want to distribute it, and it becomes very difficult to get. The secondary market for bourbon is insane. I don't have it here, but there's a Buffalo Trace product called Eagle Rare 10. I don't know if either of you guys have had it. It's a $34 bottle of bourbon that I have seen on the shelves for $175. Pretty insane. I know Kane and I were talking right before the show about getting some Blanton's. Blanton's bourbon usually sells about $65. Again, Buffalo Trace allocated bourbon that I've seen for as much as $200 here in South New Jersey. Now, certain states for bourbon are managed from a price perspective via the state. New Jersey is not one of those states. Pennsylvania, Ohio, those are states that their liquor board controls the pricing. So you can find really good rare bourbons for what they actually cost. And they're usually pretty cheap, actually. But this Stagg goes for about $400 in New Jersey. I was able to get it for $65 because of a local event where I waited 3.5 hours in line to get this.
Wow.
Yeah, Dan, plug that a little bit. That's one of the cooler things that I was showing a lot of people that event. I don't know the whole. I know it's a food drive. Go into a little bit how you got that bottle.
So Roger Wilco, I've got a couple bottles for some more tastings if we're interested. So Roger Wilco is just a store here locally in South Jersey. That's a terrible shot. Don't worry about that. That doesn't really charge you more than what they should, which is great. And they have a wonderful selection. So what they did was there are so many people who want to drive up from Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, down from New York and South Jersey to get a lot of these rare bottles. And they get a lot because they just move so much product. That's kind of how it works. You have to buy so much of Fireball and Truly's to get these really rare bottles because they all have the same distribution companies. So every 6 months, they throw a fundraiser for South Jersey Food Bank, where if you donate at least 20 cans of food, you have access to get in line and you can get one of these difficult to find allocated bourbons. So, I mean, what's 20 cans of peas? $7 at Trader Joe's or whatever. So for $7 and a little patience, you can wait in line and get one of these rare bourbons. The best part of it was they had so much of it that I actually went back in line 5 times. So I bought so much bourbon, I had to call my wife to come help me carry all of them out. So we bought 7 difficult to find allocated bourbons that night. We've been tasting them ever since. Very cool. The whole story of it is on my YouTube, which is Koob_tube. And that's one of the interesting things just about bourbon in general. I used to live in Louisville, Kentucky. I lived there from 2014 to 2018. If you know what Angel's Envy is, I was their neighbor when they opened in their neighborhood.
Shout out. Cool. Big shout out.
Yeah, love Angel's Envy. It's very tasty. And from then I just was like, okay, this is what I'm obsessed with now. I'm a man in his 30s, so it's bourbon and smoking meats and playing bad golf. That's just like you hit 31 and it's like, boom, there we go.
Yeah.
These are my interests now. And it has just been a love affair ever since. So one of the things I wanted to look at when I actually got laid off from Sport Trade around Thanksgiving was, how can I create content still to like remain sharp in that aspect, but do it about stuff I really love. And it became very obvious that the bourbon space on the internet is just a bunch of burly ass dudes giving 20-minute reviews, which I don't have time for. I don't want to sit and watch your 20-minute YouTube video. I'm sorry. But what I would be interested in is a 3-minute video or a 4-minute video. So I do 3 to 4 minute bourbon reviews and bourbon education, which I never see anywhere.
Wow.
Primarily from a shorts perspective. So we make YouTube shorts about bourbon education, and those get most of the views on the channel. And then we do reviews for the hardos who are just actually curious what some of these bourbons taste like.
Yeah.
One of the funnier things is, prior to buying all those bottles, because I hadn't been working, I've just been pulling from my personal stash. So I've got about 30 bottles. We've been pulling them out once a week. We pull one out, we do a review. And a lot of that was born out of the fact that I didn't know what I was tasting at all. I had no idea what I was tasting. I was like, yeah, I like bourbon. It tastes good. But like, I couldn't tell you what any individual bourbon came close to tasting like. So, for example, like this Stag, which is 127 proof, which is crazy high. That means a 63.9% alcohol by volume. A Bud Light is 4.5%. So,
yeah, I don't know if people are actually understanding how much like
alcohol.
When I did some research, so Dan and I were going to do this together. Like I said, I got the wrong bottle. When I did the research, I could not believe the ABV on this bourbon. I mean, most bourbons you're going to find in that 90, kind of that sweet spot, 90 to. It's really, in my opinion, that's kind of your casual drinker,
your sipper for sure.
This is you better watch yourself, and if you got your keys on you, you shouldn't.
Well, see, and that's one of the things I think there's a misconception, right? When you're drinking bourbon, this is a 2-ounce pour. You're drinking an 8 to 16 ounce beer, and you're drinking 7 of them, whatever, right? Like, I wouldn't recommend drinking more than this in general, and you probably wouldn't want to. But one of the best things about it is people have a reaction to bourbon, which is like, oh my God, it just smells like straight ethanol or whatever. You know, it's something you take your time with. You pour it, you let it sit, you let the alcohol vapors dissipate, and then you get all those wonderful aromas. I was drinking a Weller yesterday, a cheap
Weller,
$24 Weller,
a very cheap,
which is impossible to find around here. But I was able to get it at this event, $24, and it tasted literally like marshmallows. The whole experience was marshmallows. Okay. And it's delicious. There are so many other.
Oh, the Angel's Envy. You mentioned it. Angel's Envy Rye. The light butterscotch that stays on my mustache is like the most delightful thing.
Which you can return to later, which is my favorite part about mustaches and bourbons.
The best.
Yeah. So like for this one right now, again, this is the Stag, not the George T. Stag. That one's even more difficult to find. That goes for over $1,000 a bottle in New Jersey.
Yeah, she's the skinny one. That thing is.
This is a tub. This thing's like a tub. But the first thing I noticed immediately off the cuff, as soon as I poured it out, let it sort of aerate a little bit. The nose was very heavy with brown sugars and with oak. Now that's probably because this is aged at least, I would say, 8 or 9 years. Let's see if it says it on here. I'm going to go ahead and say at least 8 or 9 years. So you're going to get a lot of oaky notes from a bourbon that's been sitting for that long. Kentucky bourbon has to be in a new American charred barrel for at least 2 years, and it must be bottled at least 80 proof. So you mentioned the 90 proof. Okay, and that is definitely like a sipper. That's probably a bourbon that's not going to be very complex. It's going to be good, probably not very complex. Once you get into those higher proof levels, like 100 and up, you're going to find pretty complex bourbons. This is definitely one of them. I'm getting a lot of cigar.
I'm sure it pairs nicely with one, right?
Absolutely would. Yeah.
Are you a big cigar guy, Dan?
Well, when I golf. If I'm golfing, yeah, I'll definitely have a cigar. If it's being offered.
My father-in-law is an aficionado, so every time I visit, I get absolutely murdered. I smoke pot, not cigars. It's
fair enough. No, I mean, I'm getting a big wave of vanilla right now too, which is a
Nice.
pretty common note amongst bourbon. You get a lot of vanilla, caramels.
I looked at those notes earlier on their website, and that was one of them.
Oh, okay. So I try not to look.
Sure.
So one of the
on the money with that one.
Yeah, one of the conceits of the bourbon reviews that I do is I review it without looking because I'm trying to improve my palate. So
sure.
I'll guess it, and then I'll actually go to a real review, and we'll see. Now, sometimes I don't agree at all. Like there have been times where we've done. You mentioned Old Elk before we jumped on. Old Elk makes a wheated bourbon for $90 that is amazing. It smells like Honey Nut Cheerios cereal. You open it up. It took me right back to my youth. I wasn't drinking bourbon when I was eating cereal.
I was going to say nothing like bringing you back to your youth like a bottle of bourbon.
But it was delicious, and I really enjoyed it. So we rate every bourbon we drink out of 10 barrels. Again, if you trust somebody's palate, you're more than likely to watch them repeatedly. I'm still trying to learn my palate. So my reviews are different from other ones out there on the internet, which are come watch this person you trust tell you what's good. My whole thing is let's learn together. Let's figure this out, because I think there are a lot of dudes who like the idea of drinking bourbon, liking bourbon, but the reality is they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
And those people are called taters in the biz or in the community.
Oh, God. Taters and touts. We got those two together.
Taters and touts. And I am 100% a tater. So my fellow taters, come join me and we'll drink some America's finest spirit and just figure it out together. So that's the pitch. And it's been a lot of fun to do. I've been trying a lot of great bourbons. Honestly, I tweeted this the other day, guys. This is kind of funny if you guys want to pop back up. The difference between sports betting Twitter and bourbon Twitter could not be more different. As you know, sports betting Twitter, one of the most toxic environments on earth.
What have you done for me in the last 24 hours?
Bourbon Twitter, one of the most supportive communities I have ever experienced in my entire life.
Oh shit!
People like on Instagram and Twitter, people with tens of thousands of followers have followed me. They've reached out. They said, "Hey man, this is super cool. I'm glad you're doing this. Like, welcome. Like, bourbon is meant to be shared." Couldn't agree more.
100%. It's a good thing. So like I said, I grew up in the UP in Michigan, in the Great White North. Whiskey's massive. And I grew up everybody talks about whiskey, and they talk about whiskey and bourbon, and they kind of use the same term. Whiskey is kind of a uniform thing. And for the longest time, I had that feeling like, oh, you smell this? It smells like ethanol. Like, why the hell would I ever try this? Believe it or not, and it's funny, we talked about the non-complex ones. Bullet bourbon. Bullet bourbon got me right on the train. My dad used to buy it a few years ago, and it just kind of it weaned me into trying something just on the rocks, because it has a good enough taste to where you can do it on the rocks. I do have a funny story about bullet bourbon. I don't know if I've actually said it on this program. I think I actually said it on a different one that I was on. So I'm out in Denver visiting a friend of mine. We're at a wine bar, which is the nice thing. Gentlemen, if you get into bourbon and your girl likes wine bars have a great bourbon selection. Terrific. So if you want to go for a tasting, more often than not, they'll have something for you if you like a good bourbon. Anyways, we're at this wine bar. And this is a while ago, so I just ordered a bullet on the rocks. And I'm from Wisconsin. It's a little more conservative up here. People aren't really about the whole political thing. And the guy under his breath, big old burly dude, just goes, "Well, that's a very anti-LGBTQ choice." And I was like,
bullet bourbon? So
I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I don't want to like make him mad. And I was like, well, I texted, joke's on him. I already had been tuned up a little bit. I got buddies that swing that way. So I texted him. I said, what is this about bullet bourbon being an anti-LGBTQ bourbon? And I was like, it's pretty popular. I feel like I would have heard that. Turns out the guy that owns Bullet, his daughter got wedged out of the inheritance for some promiscuous things that she may have done in her early 20s that were posted online. We won't get into them too much. You can Google them if you'd like. There's some really good media out there. We'll just put it that way. And she claimed that he kicked her out of the inheritance because she's bisexual. So anyways, that was my first like, oh wow, yeah, no, getting out of here maybe. And that's actually, to his credit, he gave me a Angel's Envy, and that was the first time I ever.
There you go.
And that's like the perfect thing, because shit, that's one of my favorite bourbons now.
It's great.
Rye. He gave me a single rye on the rocks to just try it, and he's like, just on the house, and I fell in love that day.
Angel's Envy is fantastic. It really is. Although I will say, we did a blind tasting at the home last weekend.
I watched. Is that the one you posted?
I posted about it, and it came in last, and I was devastated.
I
was
that
is our house bourbon.
Like that ending.
I was shocked. Angel's Envy has been our house bourbon since my wife and I have been together, and we could not believe that it came in last.
I got to check out the blind tasting. That sounds like that's a good idea. I like that a lot.
Great content.
A ton of fun. Because you know what? People get obsessed with the price tag, right? People get obsessed with the price tag. And not just bourbon, of any drink, like any collectible, whatever.
Any kind of alcohol.
I want to do it with wine. I would love to do it with wine. See how.
Well, you should be doing. You should be catering your preference to your palate, like what you actually like.
Right.
And that was a taste test of all 90 proof and below bourbons. And I was like, Angel's going to run away with this. And when I could not believe it came in last. Actually, Buffalo Trace was first. Buffalo Trace was like, oh, delicious. You have a bottle right there.
I had a bad time with the Trace once. So, but Angel's Envy, and this is coming from the least bourbon guy of us three. Angel's Envy was probably the best I've ever had. But again, like if I'm going to get whiskey or bourbon, like I go Bullet, I might splurge and get Knob Creek. But I also don't buy that very often. I have, a bar cart with a couple bottles. So Dan Koob, I will have to tune into the Koob tube some more and educate myself.
Can I make one quick suggestion for you? If you like Knob Creek in the same price point as Larceny is by far a superior bourbon, and they also made the 2023 Bourbon of the Year, which is a barrel proof, 126 proof, maybe not for you yet, which is $60. A $60 bourbon of the year.
He just punched you in the balls, brother.
No. Again, hey, look.
I gotta ease into it.
No, I'm kidding.
Ease yourself in. Look, again, this is not sports betting community. This is bourbon community now.
Yes, I love it.
You drink
it. We're here to help. Here to help.
You drink it the way you like it.
This is the greatest night ever. We're now like, what the fuck are we doing in Gambling X and Gambling Twitter? Let's
see, because the thing is,
all this negativity and this toxic bullshit, man.
If bourbon were sports betting and somebody were to not drink a bourbon neat, now that's the way I prefer it. But if somebody would put a drink on the rocks, if they were to use whiskey stones to chill it, if they were to put water
I got a big old stone. That's how I do mine.
Perfect. Now, if I were to do that, the response in Twitter or sports betting Twitter would be, you're a fraud. You're a joke.
Fuck you.
I'm going to come to your house and beat you for telling me that parlay was wrong. It's a completely different.
That's given me shit about doing my bourbon on the rocks, and I know that is in the bourbon community kind of frowned upon.
No, thank you.
Taster.
Yeah,
but no, you're right. It's such a 180.
You enjoy America's finest spirit however you want, as long as you're partaking. We're in the same.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be. I love that. That's awesome, and that's great that. In your post sport trade world, you're continuing with the content.
Yeah, dude, I love your story.
So that's awesome. Let's
it doesn't pay any bills, but it's fun.
Well, it provides me entertainment, and it adds more bottles that I'm going to ask my lady to get me. So
there you go.
And you learn a little bit, but yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, for all the bourbon drinkers out there, and I'll tell my friends to.
Like Dan said, when we're all kind of at, Joey and I are at the point where both of us are just turning 30 here, and it's like Dan said, you got golf, you got bourbon, you got a very finite amount of things that you're gonna keep around, and bourbon's one of those things that you can go out and just have. To me, I can have 2 bourbons and just kind of relax, chill out, and be very cool, especially if I've got my pen on me. Little toot.
Oh, you want like a nice, chill, warm buzz? It's bourbon.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Like you're not aggressive. You're just like you're chilled out. You're nice and warm. There's nothing.
My fiance can't even tell when I'm drunk on bourbon. She multiple times she's been like, "Oh my god, you're drinking?" I'm like, I've had like probably a dozen beers, but yeah,
Yeah, damn. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pushing 30. I have a little wine fridge in the apartment, but my bar cart needs some work, so I'll be tuning in. I've had Larceny. I think one of the first drinks I ordered when I was 21 and I was out in Manhattan one night was a Larceny on the rocks, and it was like almost $25 or something.
That's how much the bottle costs.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was great.
Well, that's one thing to know about buying bourbon elsewhere is to just don't do it. Like buying bourbon at a bar is a tough sell.
Yeah. I haven't done much of that since. Maybe whiskey ginger here and there.
This is something else that happens when you turn 30s. You don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah,
you really just want to stay home.
That's why my bottle keeps expanding. I keep getting more bottles.
Tomorrow's Friday night. I'm coming home from work and I'm chilling. I'm doing nothing.
I don't know. If I'm the only person in their 30s here, that's fine. But I will tell you, gentlemen, something happens when you turn 30, which just intrinsically, inherently happens, where you say, I don't care about XYZ anymore. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care about any outside whatever. I care about what's going on in my world, and I love meat and cutting my grass and bourbon, and that's about it.
Hell yeah!
That sounds like the first time I took acid.
There you go. I've been tripping for 5 years.
That sounds like why I quit playing football in college. Anyways, we won't talk about that story. That's a whole different story.
Sorry, long halftime. Sorry.
No, that was awesome. A great.
I love that, and like Joey said, it's one of those things that bourbon can be intimidating from the outside looking in, especially when you're ordering it in public. But knowing that the space is a pretty opening one, it's good to know. And on this program, we say pretty much every podcast what kind of bourbon I'm drinking because
love it.
It's a big part of what I do, man. It's like you said, when you get older, so much you can enjoy.
Let me amend one thing as a final thought. I said, Don't buy bourbon if you're out and about. If you live in an area where it's not price controlled and whatever bar you're at has a bourbon that you've never had and or have never had access to, but you want to try it and it's a reasonable pour, do it.
Maybe go to your bar where you know the bartender, they'll hook it up,
Yeah. I have a local bar that up until about 3 months ago, it's the closest bar to our house, had double bullets for $5. And I milked that for like 2 years. They finally caught up with it. It's now $11, which sucks. But
crazy price increase.
Insane price increase. Makes no sense. They don't have a whole lot for bourbon. It's a country bar. I live out in the middle of nowhere. Anyways, gentlemen, let's get back to the football. We have 2 more games to go on Sunday. I want you guys tell me why my team's going to lose, and I'll try to just keep it together. Let's
Saturday night. Yeah, I threw us off. That's on me, fellas.
Joey, lean me into this. What are your thoughts? You've kind of watched my roller coaster of fandom for the entire year.
It's fun.
9.5. I think we both agree is a lot of points, but shit, man, San Fran, in my opinion, I've said it all year, they're the best team in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And the extra week off, the home field advantage. I'm kind of going to contradict what I said about Baltimore. I was like, I love Houston. It's if you look at it and you look at the spread, it's both are 9.5, right? Both the Ravens game and the Niners game. Both teams are home. They got the number 1 seed. They're coming off the first round bye and they're playing against 2 quarterbacks who had almost identical wild card rounds in Stroud.
Not if you talk about PFF. Can we?
I'm glad you saw that too. PFF.
I mean, I get it. Stroud threw like what should have been an interception on the first drive, but my boys had the same exact stat line and
like a 20-point difference in their PFF grade. Yeah, fuck that.
It's like 20 points lower. Anyway, sorry, I had to cut that off. And I'm
glad you brought that up because I was thinking about bringing that up too.
We've shit on PFF quite a bit this year.
They're easy to shit on, but I kind of enjoy some of their shit as well. Anyway, toxic industry. Anyway,
toxic.
One of these quarterbacks or both of them this weekend will hit they're going to come back down to earth, or they're going to get a reality check. They're going to get a gut punch. And I'm sorry, O'Kane. I think it's going to be Jordan Love heading into Levi's.
It's okay. No, lay it on me. This is why I wanted to go last. Lay it on me, Dad.
That defense and the Shanahan and LaFleur thing, I think Shanahan is going to have them like so prepared, so locked in. I'm sorry, man. I just think the Packers come crashing down to earth this week, and the Niners run away with it. I'm not even going to talk about the spread or whatever. I just think this is all Niners here, man.
No, I get that. Dan,
enough for you to crack a nice bottle stag next week.
Yes. Dan, tell me. I would imagine you're feeling very similar. Tell me why my Packers are losing.
Well, I mentioned before, I try not to look at the entire body of work. I try to drill down to the last month or so, which means the Packers profile as a team that is very capable of pulling an upset and surging at the right time. But this comes down to Joe Barry against Kyle Shanahan. And whatever narrative-based approach you want to look at this, like he's going to get the boys up and they're going to be gone. The fact remains this 49ers team has been cresting to this moment for 5 years. They're not going to be overlooking the Packers because they're a 7 seed. I mean, this team is habitually underperformed and disappointed with Kyle Shanahan in this spot. And the only franchise in the last 10 years who has done that more so than the Niners are the Green Bay Packers. Let's be honest. Since 2010, no team has gotten to an NFC Championship game more, and no team has lost more often than the Packers with the same infrastructure, except with a different quarterback who's less experienced. Now, again, the Chad all year has been, look how young and dumb these guys are. They do this, they do that, they play well, all this stuff. Again, it's Joe Barry, who is not a good defensive coordinator, against Kyle Shanahan, who has had 2 weeks to prep. All right. Now, again, spread is too large for me. I'm not going to tease this to 3.5. You're not getting under 3. To me, there's not a lot of value there. I don't care about crossing 6. But I like the under. And I think this has all the makings, unfortunately, O'Kane, of a massive crash down back to earth for Green Bay. So give me the under, which right now, Profit Exchange in Jersey has the under at 50 for plus money, plus 104. So I like that.
All right.
This strikes me as like a 31-17 ball game.
Well, from somebody who's seen a lot of 31-17 type ball games with the Packers and 49ers, it wouldn't be anything that surprises me. Everybody kind of knows how I feel at this point. I said it last week. We're playing with house money.
I totally agree.
And at this point, Jordan Love is playing unsustainable football. Nobody does perfect passer ratings back-to-back weeks in the playoffs. That's just not going to happen. But you kind of touched on something, and you said it briefly, and what I think is probably the biggest thing is our coach is kind of a mental midget as well. He is a physical midget, and he's going against the dude that kind of has him in a box. He can check the regular season win off with Crosby's walk-off 2 years ago. Or no, it was last year. Last year they walked off in like week 4.
Why was Mason Crosby their starter this year, and then the Giants picked him up?
Crosby never started for us. We took Anders Carlson. Tried to force him into retirement. He didn't want to do it. Apparently the frozen yogurt franchise he's got up here didn't work out. Really needs a paycheck, and he ended up just missing kicks.
I was just curious about that. Oh, okay.
Missed kicks for you guys, missed kicks for the Rams. He was doing really good at missing kicks and getting paid this year.
Yeah.
But shout out Mason Crosby. He gave us a lot of good times. But no, for Green Bay, so 9.5. To me, I've been doing the same thing with Green Bay. It's a fandom thing. The way that I bet the Packers is if we are in a situation where we're underdogs, where I think, hey, maybe there's a chance we could win, I do one bet on the money line, double that bet on the spread. This week, it's a half a unit at plus. I actually got 390, and then I've got unit and a half at, 2 unit, or just 1 unit. Jesus Christ. At plus 9.5. I'm not going to be super unrealistic here. Let's be honest. The Packers have gotten to a point where nobody ever thought they could have been. Jordan Love was the biggest crapshoot. I was very much on the why the hell did we let a Hall of Fame quarterback walk out the door? I've been very quickly to point myself as wrong. I will put 2 thumbs at this guy as being the guy that did not want Aaron Rodgers to leave. But there's two sides to this. Nobody saw Jordan Love being nearly as good as he's been in the last 7 to 8 weeks. So if you're talking to a Green Bay Packer fan, I would say most Packer fans tell you, and especially because recency, San Francisco, Dan, we talked about it. There are two things in Packer fandom, guys that are especially my age, right around 30, whose dads are right around 60. The Cowboys own the Packers in the 90s. My dad hates the Cowboys with a passion. I think this past weekend was the culmination of his entire he's been to Super Bowls. This was probably right up there with Super Bowls, watching that happen. He won't admit that, but I know he feels it deep down. The Niners are the Cowboys for me. The Niners have owned me forever, from Kaepernick to Jimmy G to dude. If I get 3 years, if I get 3 fucking presidencies, where they beat me, I don't know.
Have we talked? So I covered them for a bunch of years.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
NBC. I was at the Kaepernick game at Candlestick.
So
they knocked Candlestick
down. Candlestick, oh god.
Where he ran for like 175 yards,
70 or 180 yards. It was just
brutal.
Insane.
Absolutely brutal.
By the way, I did look up, and you're welcome that I didn't do it. There are so many funny pictures when you Google Dan Koob, sports reporter.
I'm well aware.
I got
to do this right now.
One that you recently put. Dan Koob back at NBC was an absolute beauty, and I'm sure was tearing it up in the 920 back in the day. But yeah,
that's a different podcast.
Yeah, right. But yeah, no.
Well, I'm sure you know Tyler Dunn then.
I do.
He and I are best friends.
No kidding.
And we were running around at the same time. So,
terrific. Love to hear that.
Great times.
Yes. Speaking of which, so you'll know this one. What we're doing for the game is we're going to, D2. I don't know if D2 is around. It used to be, I think Anduzzi's owned it all, but now it's D2 over by the stadium. This is a deal that you will not get in other states. $10 for wings and fries.
That's great.
That's just not something.
Now, that's right by the Resch Center, right?
Yeah, it's literally attached
right next to
the Radisson that's next to the Resch.
Yes, gotcha.
Yep, right there, little bar. We have a table that we basically own, our friend group that we just get. You can look out. You literally look past the TVs and you see Lambeau Field.
Love it.
And you get the TVs right there. In an away game, it's the best you can get. We were there for New Year's. It was perfect for the Minnesota game.
So I'm curious about this because I watched Jordan Love and I see a guy who clearly has sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. His on-field mannerisms are exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Exactly the same.
It's everything. But you know, the one thing that they do differently that I think is going to take Jordan Love as far as Matt LaFleur can take him. Jordan Love throws to the open receiver. Aaron Rodgers had trust issues over and beyond the moon. Jordan Love did not have a guy this year that he zeroed in on and said, I need to pump him full of targets. We talked about the San Francisco game the last time we played in the divisional round. Devontae Adams had like 19 targets. He was the only receiver. And granted, at the time, Christian Watson's a rookie, I think. Or no, this is before them. So this is Alan Lazard, MVS.
Yeah, they're young.
Not a great set of receivers. But when you have to pump a guy 19 times, that's when you lose games that your defense holds teams inside 20 points. I don't think this Packer offense is going to get held to under 20. It's going to come down, and you mentioned it. It's Joe Barry. And one of the funniest memes I've ever seen, it's Barry and Shanahan face-to-face, and it says, the master never fears the man in second because he knows what he's doing. He fears the man in last because he has no idea what the fuck he's going to do. And that's Joe Barry. Who knows what Joe Barry's going to come with for a game plan? In my opinion, nobody can actually tell what he's going to do because he's a bumbling, I almost said a word he can't say anymore, idiot. He's a guy that I just can't stand behind his defensive coordinator. I'm hoping that this playoff run is not extending his coaching career because we saw Mike McCarthy keep his job. Anything is possible. I don't know how this all keeps going for the Green Bay Packers. obviously we're living in a fever dream of all fever dreams, being where we get to our third quarterback in my lifetime, and he takes us to the divisional round his first year. That's my rant. I didn't want to get too crazy into it. I don't want to get super over the top emotional, because I'll tell you what, Joey, if we're sitting in this spot a week from now doing this, I'm going to be
I sense it already. O'Kane's already getting a little he's passionate, as you can tell.
I'm getting dude. It's Thursday now. We just talked about it. Saturday is not far. Tomorrow I'm gonna wear my Packer socks to work. I'm gonna wear my fucking jersey on Saturday. So
wear your cheesehead, sling some cars, do your thing.
We don't do those. We don't do cheeseheads. That's sacrilegious in our house. I don't like the cheeseheads. I'll wear a grater.
Fair enough.
But
I do love the foam graters.
The foam grater might have been one of the best inventions. Like, talk about a fucking turn.
Yeah, love that.
And 31 other teams can use it.
That's right.
That's the best thing about it. But anyways, let's move on, because there's a game that's going to happen on Sunday.
Correct. I do hope I'm wrong with I'm pulling for your Pack.
Oh, but, I appreciate that.
Of course. I don't like San Francisco. They're kind of.
Yeah, I mean, who likes San Francisco? They're a bunch they're a super team at this point, right? With their 7th round quarterback.
It is nice, I will say too. Since we started recording in August, we hop on once a week. I've taken some weeks off just from crazy work schedule, whatever, and O'Kane has held it down. We normally record Tuesdays, Wednesdays, so it is nice on Thursday. You probably won't see a ton of movement with the lines from now,
especially in the playoffs. I don't know. Did we see crazy late line run last week?
Not much. I don't remember
anything that threw me off versus the
half point here and there, but nothing crazy. So when we look at these Saturday games, it's like, yeah, shit, no, that's 48 hours away. We're getting close, so
we're right on top of it.
Yeah.
So let's talk Sunday. Sunday, we've got a game that I think everybody in the NFL, anybody that watches football in general, will be tuned into. I have a feeling that this is going to break a lot of records as far as viewership, because there is nothing else going on. And it is a very, solid weekend to do it. It's going to be colder than shit in most places. People are going to tune in. Fellas, we get Kansas City and Buffalo in a divisional round. And I have to ask this because of what we said last week. And I want to ask Dan first, because Joey, I think I already kind of feel Dan is the wrong team favored.
No.
Okay.
But at the same time, I still like the Chiefs.
Sure.
I mean, is Buffalo that good? I don't know.
I'm not sure they winning. That's about all you can say is they keep winning. They don't do it super impressively, but they keep winning.
I think the narrative exists, obviously, that the Chiefs are not as good as they have been, and that's totally fine. And I think there's a degree of truth to that. But I mean, you look at the last several teams the Bills played before the playoffs. I mean, a Dolphins team that I think, not to the extent that the Eagles did, but it just wasn't that good. A Patriots team that's terrible. They won 27-21. A Chargers team that we know is bad. They win 24-22. And then, they do win at Arrowhead 2017. And again, where the Chiefs were coming off a short week against an Eagles team that they probably should have beaten anyway. And the fact that, let's just be honest, the Chiefs beat the Bills in the playoffs. Like, okay, you mentioned how the Niners are your bugaboo. This is the mountain that the Bills have to get over.
I'm very happy somebody said it. That's what I was going to say too.
And the fact of the matter is, the Buffalo Bills are the 76ers of the NFL.
Ooh,
every year,
fucking love that.
Every year we talk about this team.
T-shirt.
Every year we talk about this team like they're legitimate contenders until they get to the postseason.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens all the time. They can't run the ball in the cold weather. They're not a cold weather team. They live in Buffalo, and yet they are not a pounded team. Now,
I have a Bills future ticket for a Super Bowl. But I actually, it sucks because I do agree. I thought last week I didn't like how they handled the Pittsburgh game.
Of course not.
It was not. You had everything set up. You push the game back so the weather can't be a factor. You got to go in there and blow the fucking doors off a team that you're favored on 10 points. And they did.
Now you can make the case, hey, they went up 14-0 and they took their foot off the pedal. But
so did the Packers, and they didn't.
Yes,
they wobbled them.
Now the difference here, of course, I mentioned it before, is Patrick Mahomes never played in a away playoff game, so it's going to be in Orchard Park. That's the only big difference. I don't think it
big
matters.
Time.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters that much.
Does it matter with a guy that's checked every single other box?
Do you think Patrick Mahomes cares if he's playing in there? I don't think he cares.
Not a
I don't think he cares. This is the first time the Chiefs have also had a top 5 defense.
That's a fact. That's a huge fact. And it's something that people are glossing over. We filleted this Chiefs defense for weeks.
Yeah.
And it feels like at the end of the season, we kind of forgot why the Chiefs have been in the situation they have. We've kind of taken the Chiefs for granted as being the AFC West champion. They had absolutely no competition.
And if you're willing, now Caesars is willing to give you the full 3. Caesars has this at +3. Now it's minus 120.
Really?
So it's not as good as some of the other offerings, which are around. Yeah, it's around even money for 2.5, almost everywhere else. But it looks like
I was gonna say it's almost stuck completely to like the absolute point since open.
So Unibet, Sugar House, if you have that, Bet Rivers, ESPN Bet, or they're all +3, but they're all hanging around minus 120. So the value is not the same, but they're willing to give it to you if you want it. It's probably not plus EV if you care about that stuff. That's there. Give me the 2.5. I want it.
It does feel like a 2.5 kind of game. I'm a big fan of the 2.5, Joey. I'm interested because Joey and I, so the way we've kind of looked at it, and I don't think this is, uniform the way that we bet it. It's just kind of how I've looked at it this year. If it's within 2.5, Joey and I just take we just kind of go money line. I mean, we like the field goal. We don't usually take the 2.5. This is a game where I do think the 2.5 actually has a decent amount of value because I do think it's going to be really tight. Joey, interested to hear what you have to say.
2 of the 4. I'm just scrolling on X right now for some last minute stats and analysis. So whatever I was just going to say, I'm not going to say because that was pretty stupid. Insane. This is from ML Football. I'm sure you've seen this Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Hockley will be the referee for the Bills-Chiefs divisional game. The Chiefs are 8-2 during the Mahomes era with Hockley, including 2-0 in the playoffs. The Bills, on the other hand, have gotten 40 penalties for 347 yards called against them in 4 games with Hockley. Chiefs 2.5. Give me that. Chiefs money line. We lost Koob. We lost the Koob man. I'm just going with. I like. This is Mahomes in the playoffs. I also don't think he. You might have just missed me say, give me the Chiefs. I'm with you guys.
No, hit a wrong button. My bad.
And it's that ref stat, just throwing that out there. I mean, that's a big deal. I do look into shit like that too. That suckers me right in. But I'm just leaning the Chiefs. I like the experience. It's going to be a dogfight. I think the Chiefs squeak one out. One of the dogs has to win. One of the dogs has to win this weekend too, right?
They've got to. And Joey, we've talked about it before. Koob, what is your kind of philosophy on buying points? So when you're sitting at 2.5, what are your kind of thoughts, especially in a playoff situation where every fucking point is crucial?
I don't do it.
You don't do it?
No.
Okay.
No. If I don't like it, I just won't bet it.
It's just honestly. Like insurance on blackjack table.
Yeah, I won't do that either.
No, the guys that buy points are the guys that are buying insurance on the blackjack table.
Totally. Yeah, the correlation there is 100%. No, I don't do it. If there's a line I just don't like, I just don't bet it.
No, I don't hate that either. I think you have to literally look at what's out there. I mean, this thing opened plus 2.5. I'm on an odd shark right now. Plus 2.5 at plus 100. I'm looking plus 2.5 minus 101. The over did tick down. What do we think of the total, fellas? I mean, 46.5. We talked about KC's defense. This is one that a lot of people. Let's call it spade a spade. It's the last game of the weekend. This is the chase game for guys that had a really bad Saturday and early Sunday, or guys that had want to throw some.
So I have this opening at 48, and now it's at 45.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm thinking of
that might be
primetime
right.
under. I'm thinking of primetime under because they're going to get smacked with some more shitty weather. Not that it affected either team really, but I think it's a ground and pound. It's a James Cook. It's a Pacheco game.
The only thing that I push back on that is that the weather's going to be 22 degrees with winds less than 10 miles per hour. Also, it's
They're
Kansas
both
City's
fine playing in that.
Kansas City's wide receiver room. So like Tony Moore, Justin Reed, all those guys have been on the injury report, and they just keep getting healthier. Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys where I don't think it fully matters as long as a guy like Kadarius Toney isn't personally sabotaging your team, which he's been known to do. I think, are we not wrong by saying we're all kind of Chiefs plus 2.5 right here? Even if you look at the total,
For sure.
I think we're kind of split on total. I don't know if I guess Dan's the last one. Dan, where do you stand on the total?
I'm looking at pricing history, and it looks like at this point, as we sit here at 9:15 on Thursday, we kind of missed the boat. I think a lot of the value is gone. 48 to 45.
That's a lot.
You were looking at a 3-point move, and now you're looking at prices at 45 at minus 102. That screams to me the market has reached peak efficiency, and if you haven't bet it, you've missed the boat.
I think so.
Which includes myself. Which includes me.
Right? No, he's not gloating, folks. He's just stating facts.
Yeah.
I
didn't get it.
I'm still leaning it, but like, I'm not. I would rather bet Chiefs plus 2.5, and if obviously the Chiefs money line, if I'm going to take that too. And we'll shout out all the peer-to-peers. I know you brought up Dan earlier, Profit Exchange. I have that up right now. Okay, and the beautiful thing about living in Jersey is not only good prices on bourbon, but also
bad prices.
Most peer-to-peer books. We have them all here. Profit Exchange I've been using. I'll shout out Cut, our guy Sim.
We got to give a shout out to our boy Sim. Sim, our boy
Sim.
I don't know, Dan, if you're familiar with Cut at all. KUT. Cut Bet is kind of growing right now. He's got the cameos coming out. I know he's got some good things going financially. I think that is an app when we're getting into 24 that we're going to keep an eye on in the peer-to-peer market. We're a big peer-to-peer podcast.
We always shout them out.
Obviously, all that stuff where there's somebody else on the other end versus, just a house. Anytime you can eliminate that, we're big fans of that. So as we move forward, I mean, if you're taking Kansas City plus 125, I'm thinking you get them plus 135, maybe 140 but I don't see Buffalo getting late run as far as money goes on a late Sunday. I don't know, man. Kansas City, that plus sign is going to loom large, I feel like, in a lot of squares, which I wrote myself into at this point of the podcast.
Did you say you have Kansas City at plus 135?
No, I'm saying peer-to-peer, it's 125 right now. I'm thinking with a 10% bonus, you get to plus 135 roughly. What does Trade got right now?
I'm looking at unabated. Thanks to the guys at Unabated who give me a free account. Love those guys.
Speaking of those guys, if anybody wants to actually win money betting, you gotta be with Unabated. They're crazy efficient. Mm-hmm. Like I hooked up with them maybe 18 months ago, and holy shit, they are.
Yeah, Tom Viola, Captain Jack. Captain Jack has taught me more about sports betting in 2 years than anybody. He's like one of my favorite people. Right now, to answer your question, plus 127 at Sport Trade, plus 130 at Profit. So go bet it at Profit.
There you go.
Free ad reads. We'll shout them out in a tweet, but Profit, Sport Trade, Cut, Bet Openly. Maybe there's some more peer-to-peers out there. Dude, I'm unfamiliar with Unabated myself, but we'll I'll take a look at them.
Definitely check them out. I mean, the best odds screen. They have all kinds of tools, pricing history. Comparing odds, comparing lines.
Their ARB calculator.
Derivative markets.
When your bankroll's getting low, just ARB calculate your shit out of your bad streak. That's the best.
Hell yeah. Okay. I love it. The peer-to-peer is tons of fun.
When my bankroll takes a hit, I'm on unabated trying to figure out the freebies because that's the only way you can do it, man. It's a funny world out there, but unabated kind of cuts through. An unofficial sponsor there. But
there we go.
That's kind of it for the weekend. There is one thing we do on this show, and Koob, I'm going to put you on the spot, brother.
Let's do it.
Because you don't know what is about to come. Joey does. Joey knows.
I do. I'm also put on the spot, though, because I didn't know we were doing that. I figured with only 4 games, we have to do it, though. Koob, are you ready to get the let out?
Let's do it.
It's time to get the let out. The way we do it, Koob, is we do your favorite, your favorite dog, your favorite total, and then your lead pipe lock, which can be anything.
Okay, I thought this was going to be a Led Zeppelin something, but okay.
Not Led Zeppelin.
Showing my age.
Showing your no kidding. Very well done.
So we're getting the let out.
That's a term. Get the let out is a term for listening to Led Zeppelin. I digress. Sure. So my favorite. I feel like I've kind of already said these.
Yeah, I was going to say. So that's the nice thing about it is we kind of, as Joey and I had talked about it, pretty much every single episode is we work our way through our favorites, our favorite. Because being able to talk your way through it, that's the reason we got this episode. That's the reason we do this. We're not here to provide perfect fucking betting advice. Let's be real. When you got Steve Fezzik out there, guys that are doing the Circa Millions, Joey and I are just here to give you all the information, kind of streamline it best we can.
Yeah, I don't think we're an advice podcast by any. No, that was never the.
No. That was never the angle. But one thing, I'm going to start Dan. So the way we do it snake. So we'll go Dan, Joey, myself, and then myself, Joey, Dan on the way back through. I want to know Koob's favorite of the weekend.
Favorite. Okay. Now this is not spread or total, right? Is this money line?
This is let's talk in spreads. Just out of the way she goes.
My favorite on the spread here is Kansas City plus 2.5.
That's a dog, Dan.
Oh, duh.
So we do.
I thought for whatever reason I thought you meant my favorite pick. Yeah. Okay. Obviously.
Oh no,
okay.
No.
Yes. Gotcha.
That could be.
We now know Dan's lead pipe lock.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Sorry. Damn. All right. I guess this number is really high, so I will take the Texans on a backdoor cover plus 9.5.
Wow.
I like that one. That's honestly, as much as I love my Green Bay Packers, Baltimore doesn't feel like a blowout team. They're not really I don't know. You take the week off.
Yeah, they blew out Detroit at home. They blew out Miami at home. They can do that in the playoffs
and try to run the shit out of Lamar, or what are you going to do there? Joey, favorite.
My favorite. I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna go. This is just there's 4 games, so this is not advice.
Just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off, damn it.
All right. I'll go first half. San Francisco first half minus 6.5. Yeah, love that. They'll be up a touchdown at half.
It's not a bad pick, honestly. If you're talking first halves,
they're going to come out there.
I had this conversation with a buddy of mine, and we talked about it. San Francisco, if they come out and they punch us in the mouth, it could get ugly fast.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Just like it was.
Joe Barry.
Packers against Dallas.
I talked about game state. Joe Barry in a negative game state. Oh yeah. Yeah. So obviously. Favorite wise, I'm gonna go Lions. I'm laying 6.5 with the Lions. I think there's something in Detroit where they kind of found their rhythm, and I'm kind of in the idea that Detroit could win this week. If my Packers aren't sitting there waiting in the NFC Championship game, I'm probably betting Detroit again. I kind of love Khalif Raymond is getting healthy. I think Khalif Raymond's kind of a guy that people overlook and especially Sam
Yeah,
Laporta. We talked
they
about
use him a lot, man.
They're getting healthy at the right time. I'm a little worried. Anzalone, he's one of the linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be a guy that's probably going to have to cover Mark Andrews this week, and he's been hurt. That's one thing. If we're betting Detroit, I don't love it because he's going to have to chase Mark Andrews all game. And a guy
Mark Andrews is a Raven.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm talking. Oh,
I think that Angels envy is getting you.
Nah, it wasn't the Angels envy. I promise. I promise.
Oh,
I
it was the
promise.
weed promise, right?
No, he's following slot receivers is what I had in my notes. I literally scrolled further. But Anzalone, so he's been following slot receivers pretty much the entire year. He's had kind of the middle bubble in this kind of zone scheme that they run in Detroit. And that's kind of how I feel about that game. So I've got Detroit as my favorite. We're laying 6.5. I hate the line at 6.5, but we kind of all feel the same way. We don't like the favorites, and that's not. Watch all the favorites cover.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I messed that up twice, but I'll fix it on the way back.
Yeah, we'll fix it on the way back.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm gonna flip that around. Now we're gonna go to our favorite dogs, and I'd be fucking stupid not to take the Green Bay Packers plus 9.5. I'm not gonna take them as a lead pipe lock. Let's be honest. But plus 9.5, it's a perfect spot for me. Negative game state Joe Barry scares the absolute living shit out of me. We have gotten on top of our opponents every week that things have gone well. And even the week, so we played, people forget about this. So week 16, the Packers play Carolina on Christmas Eve and almost lose. It's one of those things that people forget that wasn't that long ago that, like, in a Packers fan's mind, that scares the absolute living shit. Oh boy. That's exactly what would make me pour one of those. Yeah, that's what scares the shit out of me is that we talked about Carolina giving up 9 points to Tampa Bay. They scored 36 against the Packers defense. I don't love that, but if we're talking our favorite dog, I'd be lying to you if it wasn't Packers plus 9.5. Joey, who's your favorite dog this weekend? There's a lot of them.
Koob said Houston. I'm going to keep riding Houston. This is a gut. I like them, man. They just smoked Cleveland. They can keep it close with Baltimore. And yes, Baltimore can blow teams out. I don't think they blow out Houston, man. Houston is they're kind of a machine, man.
When you're talking about a lot of points, the Houston game I feel like stands out to me more than the Green Bay game because I don't maybe trust Baltimore. I don't trust Baltimore as much as I do San Francisco.
Baltimore's proved that they're arguably the best team in the league.
But has Lamar won a game out of the first round? That's got to be the storyline we're talking about.
It's a big one. It's a big one. And, I think he wins this one, but 9.5's a lot for a Houston team that's rolling right now.
Taking 9.5 against a quarterback that's never won a divisional round, Joey, I don't think anybody's holding back.
And
I think that's
you have a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback that don't give a fuck. They don't care who they're playing. They don't care how old they are, how young they are, whatever. They're dogs. I like this team, man, a lot. They're fun to watch. They're fucking good. They're smart. Give me Houston plus 9.5 as my favorite dog.
House money, baby boy. House money.
Yeah. Check out the peer-to-peer books. Get some better odds.
Check them out. Dan Koob, who is your?
Yeah, so I gave you that one last time. I messed that up twice. So I'll give you my favorite.
Yes.
And it's San Francisco. So San Francisco? What's the next one?
Favorite dog.
My favorite dog I gave you initially was Houston.
Right? Oh, that was
he gave.
I messed that up twice, so I'm course correcting. So my favorite dog I gave you initially is Houston plus 9.5, and now I'm going to give you my favorite, which is San Francisco, which we've already talked about ad nauseum. for every reason we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
No, I don't hate that even to the slightest. Sure. It is what it is.
And now you want total, right?
Yeah. So what is your total that you like this weekend? I know you've kind of touched on a few of them.
Yeah. Over 43.5 between the Texans and the Ravens. That's minus 104 at my former employer, Sport Trade. This to me is a classic. Someone's going to get out to an early lead, and then the other team's going to play catch up. I mean, this implies a score of what, like 23 to 20?
Right.
Like
it's
23-21.
Like they think both teams are going to score 20 points, which
they're going to score more than that.
Totals.
Yeah. Now, look, the Baltimore's defense is great, right? Very good defense. But C.J. Stroud, to this point, to everyone's point, has looked unflappable. I think this goes way over.
No, I agree with you. I was on this last week. I think the Texans are a team that the points come, and when you talked about it, one thing we don't ever talk about is Chase. And I think Chase is a huge, especially with a young quarterback, he's going to try to get every single bit of yards he can, even when he's losing. So, no, I actually really, really like what you're doing there.
Well, you're talking about house money, right?
Well, right.
The Texans are playing with the most house money of anybody.
Everybody's playing house money, and you feel like there's nothing to lose. So
if the Texans don't come out with an incredibly aggressive game plan, I will be shocked.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Right. Right.
It would drive me insane if the Packers come out and hand it off to Aaron Jones, hand it off to AJ Dillon, and run play action and go 3-and-out.
Right.
I'll
perfect
lose my
example.
mind.
Perfect, right? Packers want to shorten the game. The Texans want to get into a scoring competition because their defense isn't that great.
Oh, I think Packers don't want to shorten the game at all. I think it's the complete opposite.
You want them to have
I think it's track meet. I think they feel at this point that it's track meet. When the way that Matt LaFleur was going for it on fourth down early, he was trying to push the envelope. They have sat on their hands on leads for 3 years. And this is the first time I've watched Matt LaFleur be like, holy shit, we have a lead? What if we just put them away in the first half? And they tried to do it. They didn't quite do it because they had the score at the end of the half. I personally think that's going to be a little bit of a difference in that one.
Now, with like pregame flops on totals, I typically, unless I have a really strong lean, I really don't bet them.
Sure.
I try to see how aggressive are the first 15 scripts before I really try to dive in. But this total seems really low to me. Now, that could be fishy to some. But I really think this is an opportunity, given the history of how Lamar has played in the playoffs as well. I think the Ravens want to come out and prove a point. And I also think the Texans know they're going to have to put up points too. So this seems really low.
Well, and you touched on something that we probably didn't touch on enough is Lamar. The storyline for everything that's out there, everything, Jordan Love, Stroud, all that's great. There's one quarterback. It's funny. I listened to some guys, Andy and the Whale. They're more of a Bets First podcast, and they
Drew Dinsick's my guy.
Yeah, exactly. So Drew was talking about it. So he was like, all right, so what does every quarterback have? What is the pressure on them? You talk about the Strouds and the Loves, and we talked about house money. House money is the perfect way to talk about it. If things don't go well, it is what it is. You regroup, you got guys. Now, I will say, people always put these guys in the same boat. They're not. One guy is on the first year of a rookie deal. The other guy needs to get fucking paid. And that's the two big things. And Joey, Daniel Jones's agent is Jordan Love's agent.
Oh,
found that out today. So I don't love
that. I didn't know.
From a salary cap wise, it's not probably going to work out in our favor, but it is what it is because we got a lot of young receivers where we can kind of change where normally you'd want the young quarterback, where you have 2 to 3 receivers that are on rookie contracts. But yeah, no, it's a goofy deal. It kind of is, and you don't really know how to play it perfectly. But I do like your when we're talking about Texans overs. I think Texans overs this is just kind of how they're going to play. Like I do think when we talked about their defensive ends, injury-wise, they talked about it. Both of their starting defensive ends kind of were on the injury report all week. Actually, their third-string defensive end was kind of on there. Can they generate a pass rush that is going to make Lamar uncomfortable? Can they make Lamar uncomfortable? I don't know if they're going to actually do it. There's not a lot of teams that did it this year, in my opinion. He looks pretty calm back there for the most part from what we've seen. Out of all the totals, I kind of lean with you, Dan. I kind of love that total. Joey, what is your total this week that you like?
I will on that game quick. I think that total might be a little low. To me, it seems like it's a weather-related thing. I know
there's a little bit of wind, less than 20-mile-per-hour winds, and
so that makes sense
to some degrees.
But they're two aggressive teams, and you said you think Houston.
Stroud went to OSU. Aggressive. Like you've never seen cold before.
Stroud's throwing bombs to Nico Collins. Even he's using the field with these guys. Schultz, I was going to say, and whoever else he has at receivers, who not a stellar group of receivers and tight ends. I know Nico Collins is making a name for himself, but impressive again to see what our Houston Texans are doing. My favorite total. Hold on. Oh yeah, going back to Levi's Stadium. Okay, I'm sorry. I think. Well, yes, I know. I said the Packers cover and win. I think goes over the 50.5, which I'm seeing right now. My crystal ball is telling me Niners 34, Packers 20.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you're killing me. That's okay, though.
So
this is what I expected.
All I got to say. Again, Shanahan's going to come out, and it's going to be.
The bug, I have no problem. So the thing is, Jordan Love has not known the 49ers kicking his ass. But you know who has? Our starting, our coach, who calls the plays, who does all the substitutions, who kind of wanted to be the end-all be-all when it comes to blaming anybody, and turns out his guy that kind of raised him, kind of his daddy. So when we're talking about totals, I like Chiefs Bills. I don't know why. It's one of those. It's going to be the last game of the weekend. The weather is nothing. The weather really doesn't matter here. I think this turns into a game state where things get fast, things get physical. I like this over at 45.5. I know the Chiefs defense has been great, but Josh Allen is playing at a very good level right now. We saw it. Obviously, Pittsburgh's defense a little bit weird with the injuries and everything like that. I don't want to take that at full, bro. But Chiefs Bills, 40. I got 45.5 is the number that I got. What do you guys think of that? Is that am I kind of hoping that I get a retrospect look of these teams? Is it too many points? What do you guys think?
I think the last two times they've played, they've hit 44. So I don't think it's that far off. I think it goes over though.
Joey, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on that total. And as we were talking about earlier, there was some movement there from, I think, 48 to 45. But between these two teams, could always be a shootout, could always turn into a shootout. Maybe we even get overtime like we got 2 years ago in the divisional round.
Overtime would suck. I know a lot of you talk about the spread bettors at plus 2.5. Holy shit, they'll be hanging on at every last snap.
Yeah. Just want a good game, man. I don't have anything on the total there yet, but more to come. Gonna be a good game. Gonna be a good weekend. Now, let's get the let out.
We get to it. So we are getting to the point of the program where we bring out our favorite bet of the weekend. I'm going to lead us off. I hate doing this because analytically, I have not done great at the lead pipe lock, even though you'd think a lead pipe lock is like a 2-unit play. It's just our favorite 1-unit play because we're a unit management process. We're not really going to We don't want to like load up.
We'll do team totals first half.
Oh yeah, team totals first
You
half.
switch it up. Props.
Oh, Penn State first halves were hot during college football season for our Penn State.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, so when we're talking about like the games that we've kind of talked through, the one thing that I kind of had to hold back on, it was Tampa and Detroit. So Tampa and Detroit, my favorite is 48.5. I like over. I think both of these teams come in, both secondaries are banged up as shit. I don't think there's a healthy person in either secondary. I think that both quarterbacks come in. Baker Mayfield, we talked about it. He's torn up some bad secondaries. Detroit's a bad secondary. We watched Jordan Love face fuck them on Thanksgiving, and that was before he got dialed in. This is a Detroit team that's been embarrassed time in, time
he
out.
just said face. He just said face fuck. He did just say that.
I felt it.
That happened.
Man.
I love this over. I think Tampa comes in trying to score points because Tampa comes in with a little bit of a reputation of kind of just happy to be here. You know, NFC South team making it to the divisional round. I think Baker and company comes out. They're firing. I think obviously Detroit being at home. Yeah, I like points in that game. That's my lead pipe lock. I like Detroit, Tampa. Give me over 48.5. Dan, close us, baby.
Are you ready for this?
Ready for it.
My absolute lock of the week. We go to New Era Field, Buffalo, New York. The scene of yet another Kansas City Chief triumph over the Buffalo Bills. And the part of that triumph will be the pass rushing stylings of George Karlaftis, an underrated rusher who has
name
dominated at times this season.
His
Purdue favorite.
For sure.
George Karlaftis, plus 124 to have a half sack or more.
Wow.
Damn, I didn't know he was going fucking sack props.
The sack.
I think I'm gonna take that right now. I
gotta get on that.
So that is available currently at DraftKings. Hop on that. DraftKings, the only book that currently has their sack props up. The sack master's checking in here. I love Karlaftis. Think Buffalo has a pretty soft offensive line. Deion Dawkins, a guy I went to college with at Temple, has been there forever. Is an okay pass blocker. Karlaftis is an absolute monster. He's an Exos product. I love Karlaftis to show up here at a big spot. And again, even if he splits the sack with Chris Jones or whomever, that gets us home.
No, he's one of those guys. So they had the, as we all watched, the all whites versus the all black draft, and his name was tossed around quite a bit.
He's a good player
as the white team's linebacker representative.
Yeah. Now a backup pick to this. This is not a lock, but a backup pick to this is, of course, as an Eagles fan, I'm very familiar with Derek Barnett, who was terrible for us. But as soon as he was released and picked up by the Texans, he has been nothing short of an impact rusher. He is plus 170 to get half sack or more. So just put that in your back pocket. Now, again, we talked about the reasons why I think the Ravens will win the game. I don't think the Texans are going to be able to pressure Lamar that much. But for like a half unit play, I mean, this one to me seems the upside's there.
I love
Keep that in the back pocket.
Yeah.
Now,
I love it.
My better half, my Joey. What are we thinking?
First of all,
the man
Dan
that
Koob.
brought us the lead pipe lock. What do we have?
That I did. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking at the DraftKings sack props earlier and thinking about throwing one. I was looking at Will Anderson. I was looking at a few more guys. But so I love that pick. You're welcome to come on and talk lead pipe locks whenever.
Perfect.
Yeah, these are fun, man. My lead pipe lock is odds courtesy of DraftKings as well at minus 110. It is an Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown score. You said you like points. I also like points in this game. Amon-Ra's due to touch the end zone. He's been stellar. Anytime he's above 50%, he's just a tremendous weapon for that team. Him and Goff are great together. Look, Tampa Bay secondary is not bad, but St. Brown's pretty cornerback proof. He's going to go. His receiving props at 92.5. I think he goes over that. I think he had another humongous game. He's just so consistent. And I think he finds the end zone at -110. Some of those two running backs Detroit has, they are both juiced at -130. I also like Laporta at +120. I'm not taking all of these. These are all enticing. But St. Brown, anytime touchdown score, is speaking to me. So there you go.
So like I grew up in the UP. Got a lot of buddies that are Detroit fans. He's the guy that has changed things in Detroit. They've never had a guy.
He's been tremendous.
He's a god. He's literally named after a god, and he is a god.
He He's tremendous.
He can catch the ball.
He's won me 2 fantasy leagues. He's tremendous.
It's beautiful.
I had to bring that up. Yeah, but look. Last week I had an even money Mike Evans anytime touchdown score. Anytime I put a little unit on,
let's be honest, that bet hit.
I like them to be plus money.
That bet hit. Shout out Mike Evans for the drop.
Yeah, that was a great ball too by Baker Mayfield, and that was very unlike Mike.
And I immediately, it happened.
St. Brown would catch that.
I had it like in front of my face, and it happened as it happened because I'm on YouTube TV, so I got a slight delay. And it happened immediately. You're like, Mike Evans, what the fuck? And I was just like, God damn it.
Oh, yeah. I texted you right away. But anyway, I like points in that Tampa Bay game. I think St. Brown finds the end zone. Book it.
I agree with you. Gentlemen, before we get out of here, we've gone almost 2 hours. My fiance is going to be pissed. Dan, I hope everybody's feeling well in your house. I know you've had some folks homesick this week.
We did. Just got a text from the wife, actually.
I was going to say, we are going to get out of here before any of the females in our life. I know Joey's already fucking sitting on thin ice, probably over there. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody for listening. Dan, I can't thank you enough. You are
anytime
my favorite guy that we have on here, especially because we share the love of bourbon. So can't thank you enough. Joey, as always, brother, you're the best.
Thank you, sir.
Dan, anything? Hey, let the people know before we leave. Where can they find you?
Yeah, just check me out on YouTube, Koob _ between Koob and Tube. That's basically it for right now. Unemployed, so hit me up whenever you want, and I'll probably get back to you pretty quick.
He's probably one of the best unrestricted free agents on the market right now in the gambling community. Minus chicks with big boobs. They obviously.
Now, I mean, you say that, but I've been really focusing on the
I was going to say,
flies.
you could transition, and
I don't have to. We have a gym in the garage, and I've been in there every day, being unemployed, just really working it.
A lot of
figure out the flies, a lot of flies, just really working on the inner walls, the outer walls.
Yeah, just making sure it's all
here.
You know what to do as a free agent, man.
I sure do.
We're Tube only fans.
Anybody that needs a Joe Flacco end of year, you get
Call
Dan
me up.
on board. He's gonna get you some shit going on. Dan, I appreciate you more than anything. Joey, as always a good time. This is the stream we've had. So I appreciate you both for hanging around. My fiance is gonna hate me. We'll go talk about this later. Thank you, boys. We'll talk to you.
Koob Tube. Thank you.
Koob Tube. Follow the boy.
Thanks, guys.
Koob